Welcome back everybody to the Mario Kart 8 Retro Tracks Retrospective. This is part 2, and this time around we're going to be doing a couple of retro tracks from Mario Kart 64. Surprisingly. Alright, so first up, we're going to have track 2 of the 4 tracks from the N64 version. I made a little bit of a mistake in the previous video. I accidentally put 3 tracks in the N64, or 3 remade N64 tracks. There's actually 4. I miscounted one. And on that note, I put in the spoiler for the end of the previous video that I was going to be doing Royal Raceway and N64 Rainbow Road. If I would have remembered Yoshi Valley, I would have actually put Yoshi Valley instead of Rainbow Road. I'm just going to roll with it, and in this video I'm actually going to be doing Royal Raceway and Rainbow Road. Next video, I'll remember to do Yoshi Valley, I promise, alright? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. We're here in the original Mario Kart 64 version of Royal Raceway. Now, of course, this version allows you to drive around in the field outside of Princess Peach's castle. I guess you could call it her front lawn. It's, you know, she's a princess, so, you know, of course she's got to have this really ridiculously extravagant front lawn, like royalty. So, I had to go ahead and show that off, because that's just fun, you know? It was just such a cool little, I guess it's like an Easter egg, I guess, whatever. But I always thought it was super fun. It was worth taking the 8th place, but of course I'm gonna make up for that. See, now here I'm in first in the final lap. Of course, we don't do lap 2s around here. We've effectively banned those from this video series. So, yeah, getting a lightning bolt in 6. I remember the items in this game were really ridiculous. I remember I did 64 on a stream multiple times, actually. And I remember getting a lightning bolt in, like, 2nd? What was it? It was really ridiculous. You know, like, blue shells in 3rd, stars in 2nd, and just like, what is this game? What is this item balance? I don't think item balance exists here. But I do love, you know, I did mention, aside from owning Toad and Bowser there, in the, you know, the Mario Kart Wii Retro Tracks Retrospective, I remember mentioning the thing about the signs that were on the, you know, the sides of the road and stuff. You know, it was like Luigi thing, it was just like Toad, like, you know, stuff with Yoshi. He's got like the little doggy print hand instead of like, you know, what Yoshi's hand would look like. And you've got the weird gulpy piranha plants that don't really look like piranha plants. They look like odd. What are those? It's like the victory bell, sort of like the bell flowers that, you know, gulp things down into them. It's just weird. Yeah, I mean, hey, you know, it's sparsely decorated, but it was effective in itself. Mario Kart 64 has always been such a legacy game. It's certainly one of the best games of the Nintendo 64, at the very least. It's definitely one of my favorites, for sure. Alright, so of course, you know, we gotta get the full experience to get the driver's points for round 3. Of course, meaning that it's track 3 of the Star Cup, I forgot to mention. But, here we go with the Wii remake. Yes, track 3 of the Star Cup, which is, of course, the 3rd most difficult of the 4 cups in Mario Kart 64. Suddenly, an explosion of graphics and bloom. And also cherry blossom leaves falling down, and confetti. There's a lot of stuff that's falling down in this course. I think it's actually non-stop, isn't it? It's just like the confetti, and then once the confetti finishes out, then you're in the cherry blossom leaves. Oh no, okay, they cut off now. Alright, but again, you know, I said this in the for the SNES Donut Plains 3 track. I love what they did with the music. I love what they did with the music. I'm just, you know, it's great. You know, it's a wonderful trip. It's a nostalgia trip, which is, of course, what they were going for. And I think they did a good job here. Hey, here's all the little cherry blossom leaves and such. But N64 Royal Raceway is the 3rd track in the Banana Cup, which is the 2nd highest, or the 2nd of the 4 cups in the, you know, retro courses for Mario Kart 8. I really need to explain that a little bit better. So I kind of, you know, I really should have played that up a little bit more, but I stopped there in front of that sign to show that you unfortunately can no longer drive around inside of Princess Peach's front lawn. And of course they did that almost specifically for online gameplay, and they didn't want people to just drive around in there the entire race and just, you know, screw around and troll. But I mean, in hindsight, it didn't really matter. Was that somebody flying over the bridge? My God, somebody's way behind. In hindsight, it really didn't matter. If somebody wants to go screw around in the front lawn of Princess Peach's castle, then fine, you know, let them lose their VR. You know, who cares? Just let everybody else that actually wants to win. But whatever. So, of course, you know, with the whole ramps here, they got like these new bells, and it almost sounds like wedding bells. Sort of, some sort of wedding, perhaps, in the midst. For Princess Peach and perhaps some sort of red plumber. I have no idea why I did that. I guess I wanted to show it off. I don't know. I can't remember what happens if you do that in the 64 version. I think they jump like that as well in the 64 version. Whatever. So I don't know what I was doing. I had to take the outside turn there. And I did sort of the same thing I did in the 64 version. Lots of bloom. Wow, that was rude. Somebody's mad that they didn't get first. Lots of bloom here in this track. You know, the bloom with the brightness and such. So let's go ahead and do the side-by-side thing. A lot of things changed in 18 years. Certainly. First turn, then of course the ramps. You know, I talked about the bells. And oh yeah, the birds. I like the, you know, the little details that they put into it. And here's the big jump. Boom. And then this part's a little bit wonky, but yeah, I showed, you know, me on the left. You know, I'm driving around having a great old time on Princess Peach's front lawn, and here I am in the Mario Kart 8 version. All I did was give it a small glimpse. It's just like, oh, hey, you can't go past here. Taking the outside turn, of course. Boy, was it annoying to sync this part up, because I had to take the outside turn on that final lap in Mario Kart 8. But there we go. That's it. That's it for Real Raceway. So let's go ahead and move on to track 3, Rainbow Road, track 3 of 4. Once again, I miscounted in the first part of this video series. And of course, if anybody didn't catch it the first time, in the very beginning of the first video, I misspelled retrospective. Anyway, right off the bat, I had to do this for the video series. This was important for me. I had to show off the big Rainbow Road shortcut. It was crucial. Of course, you know, because not only that, but it also, you know, cuts down on time, perhaps. You know, just lets me get through this whole ordeal faster. And I decided to use the whole, you know, the corners, or the sides of the screen thing, you know, I guess just to play up how far ahead I am compared to everybody else. But I guess you can just see that from the mini-map. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, this, you know, this music is beyond legendary. So of course, you know, I'm gonna mention now that I cut out the second lap, of course, because, you know, I want to cut down on time. I didn't want to make this video exceptionally long. But aside from the legendary music here, you know, I love what they did with the little neon faces. You know, the Wario face was particularly frightening. That one was pretty scary. It was scarier than Bowser's face. But yeah, I thought that was fun. There's no, like, logical explanation for it, you know, why there's, like, neon faces in space like this. But it looks cool, you know? I'm not a big fan of the Wario face. I feel like that should be, like, the new troll face, you know, like the whole troll face with the big grin. Just like Wario pretty much makes the same exact face. So just make Wario's the new troll face. Alright, no lap 2 here. Oh! That was almost a screw up. Wow, that was pretty good. And I don't know why they did the boo face here. Although, you know, I realized though, by taking the shortcut, I don't actually get to show the you know, the earlier portions of the track. But I guess that's not like a huge deal. I did show it in lap 2, but you know, that was lap 2, so we don't talk about that. But yeah, you know, I didn't get to show, I think, Mario, Luigi, and Peach. You know, the little neon faces. There's the DK one, Yoshi, of course. Again, you know, the track is super basic, you know, and just like, looking back at it now, you know, you can say, oh, wow, these graphics weren't that great, you know, it's just like, they had to, you know, cut out so much stuff, and it's just like Rainbow Road is basically just a, you know, rainbow gradient see-through road. that you can, that you just drive along, and it's just like consistent, exceptionally short star-like fences along the side, and it just like goes on forever. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if this track took up the most amount of memory in the game's cartridge, because it's just, aside from the music and the cool neon lights, I think this track is legendary for how frickin' long it is. I just, you know, just looking at the minimap, I just noticed Luigi stopped for a good moment there. Of course, rubber banding was actually a thing in this game. That's pretty obvious. I noticed that when I was young, I was first playing this game, and how they would magically catch up to me no matter how many times I did the Rainbow Road shortcut. I was just like, yeah, I don't think this is fair. This just seems pretty tailor-made to screw over the player. So we're done with that. 5 minutes and 20 seconds. 6 minutes for Bowser, because, you know, he's a slow dude. But yeah, no, I mean, on average, I think this track, you know, especially if you don't do the shortcut, is around 6 minutes per run. Alright, now we go to the Wii remake. I just like, you know, I love how, I think it was Seventh Disaster had to point out that I really was hugging the side of the road there. I think I showed that exact same clip in the previous video, and then I showed it right here. Of course, it's going to happen in this, you know, right now, but this is the final race of the Lightning Cup. And of course, like it's some sort of big surprise, Rainbow Road in the N64 version was the final race in the Special Cup. But, you know, it's like, it's so weird because, you know, you would think that they were based off of difficulty, but, you know, N64 Rainbow Road, the original Rainbow Road, really isn't like a difficult track. It's just really long. So I guess it's more like an endurance test, you know, it's just like, how long can you hold on to first before the CPUs screw you over and rubber band you? But anyway, as opposed to having chain chomps that eat into the road, now we have big bouncy chain chomps. I can't remember, there's specific chain chomps that I can't remember. Oh, there's me hugging the side of the wall. There it is, it's finally happening! Oh boy, it's just, it looked so cool, didn't it, the 50 times that I showed it. Of course, you know, I had to just go ahead and look it up. It's just, they're called chomps. That's it, because obviously they're not on a chain. So they're not chain chomps, they're just chomps. Very inventive name. Alright, so of course, as everybody I'm sure realizes by now, Mario Kart 8's N64 Rainbow Road was split. Just the entire track is split into 3 sections that comprise the 3 laps, rather than having you go across this insanely long course 3 times. See, that's what they should have done in the original N64 version. Of course, I don't think that the track itself would have been as legendary, although it would have been sort of like revolutionary, I guess, for the series, because that would have been the first time that it actually happened. And in the second game, no less. But anyway, instead of a whole buttload of big spinning at the very end of the road, we are instead treated to some boost pads and some gliding at the very end of N64 Rainbow Road, the Mario Kart 8 version. So, you know, personally, I can't wait to get to this side-by-side thing, because there's something that I noticed when I was editing the video that I absolutely loved. So here we go. Of course, this lap 2 on the left side there, you know, the lap that we didn't get to see, is the very beginning. Oh, there's Mario's face. So I did get to, and Peach, so I did get to show those off. Now this is where it gets really interesting. So in the N64 version, you're doing a big left spiral. On the Mario Kart 8 version, you're going to the right instead. And I know, in saying it like that, I know it sounds kind of dumb, you know? It's just like, oh wow, you're going to the right instead of the left, but I thought that was really cool. It's just like, it made me realize how much that they changed the track. If you notice here on the left, there's a big dip. On the right, there's no dip. And then there's like a bunch of big spinning at the end of the N64 version. Then the Mario Kart 8 version, instead, they made it just like, I don't know, just a couple of like snaking sort of platforms. And then you did the boost with the gliding. I thought it was cool. You know, they went with a little bit of creative freedom, you know, with the remake of the N64 Rainbow Road. But anyway, if this is any indication, that's it for this video. Join me in part 3 where I'll be doing N64 Yoshi Valley. and the only non-DLC GBA retro track for Mario Kart 8. See you all next time!